Hey, good evening and welcome to Fish Hunt Northwest of Wayne, England. Kelly Barn to my right, and a breach of etiquette as per usual,
right?
From what we normally do as far as getting through our first, full-on segment here, and then we introduce our guest. But second time around the bases, Bill was walking through the woods. I'm like, hey, why don't you jump in studio and join us tonight?
He's one of the boys now.
Everybody knows Bill Herzog joining us in studio this evening, and of course, later in the show, as always, we're going to have Chef Kelly and Sherry in the kitchen, whooping it up, kicking, cooking it up, whatever. He's got some beef recipe tonight.
Oh, okay.
Albeit I believe it's more elk, but it's something, I couldn't hear, I don't know what he's doing.
What's for dinner?
But it's good. Of course, shout out to David over there in IT Corner making this whole thing go around. So another busy week, lots of stuff going on that we're going to get to. I want to remind everybody, Fish Hunt Northwest is presented by Better Homes and Gardens Real Estate. Pacific Commons located in Puyallup, Washington. And we thank them each and every week for that, helping us bring this all to you. Hey, if you're tuning in this evening, you're either watching us on our YouTube channel or our Facebook page. We really thank you for taking the time to spend it with us. Share that around, man. Let people know where you're tuning in every Thursday and how you're finding us. There's folks that ask us, Barnum, like throughout the week, where are you guys at, what channel you on, whatever. So if you can help us to help people find us, that would be great. We're averaging about 7,000 views a week right now, which I'm pretty happy for. Yeah. We want to keep that climbing on up there so we can continue to bring you the content that's relevant and what goes on throughout the Pacific Northwest and beyond. And so by you doing your part, we'll do our part. We'll meet up here every week. You can join us throughout the week on our Facebook page. Look for our additional videos on our YouTube channel. We post up a lot of good content in there. We have a Bigfoot story we're going to cover. It falls within the realm of fish and game, wildlife, walking in the woods, things like that. Mm-hmm. That particular post, this is where if you're involved on our Facebook page, you're going to realize how much traction that one got.
Huge. People love Bigfoot or hate Bigfoot. I mean, it's like this,
but of course it was secondary to this article is written that we had a Bigfoot sighting out in Yelm, which is not too far away from where any of us live. So it's kind of, the curiosity.
That's the suburbs now.
Yeah, that's the suburbs now. Yeah. Yep. So Harry and the Hendersons is up and running well. So we're going to get to that a little bit later. But lots going on every week. So we appreciate you joining us, and find us on all the social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all those things going on. We put a lot of content out, and that's just kind of what we do. So post your pictures, ask your questions. We get a lot of messages throughout the week now, getting some emails. We appreciate that. We want to interact with you, keep this whole thing going during the week and through the weekend when we are not here in front of you as we are every Thursday. With that, Barnum, we have a couple interesting stories. We're going to get to Bigfoot, obviously, as mentioned. That is why Bill is sitting here in this first segment, because he, hands down, has one of the best Bigfoot stories I've ever heard.
Bigfoot whisper.
Yes, it is a.
I wish it wasn't true.
It's compelling. It sucks you in, and you will leave tonight being a believer. I'll put it that way. So we'll get to that.
That's a tall order.
Yeah. I'm telling you, the man's convincing. Prior to that, so there's some stuff going on. There's a group out here in this region, the Twin Harbors Fish and Wildlife Advocacy. They have filed a lawsuit against WDFW. Yep. And when you hear of a private group, much as we've been subjected to, supported by large dollars, which these guys aren't supported by the multimillionaires that some of these other groups are, but the hairs on the back of your neck stand up, you kind of get a defensive posture, and you're thinking, son of a gun, here go some more people throwing lawsuits at WDFW, take away our fisheries. Actually, these guys have been around a long time. I know most of them on this committee. They've been involved with the fish advisory groups over the years. They keep their thumb on the pulse, if you will, throughout the Twin Harbors area. And they're very aware of what goes on in open meetings. They're aware of what goes on behind closed doors between the co-managers, which is part of the process. If you weren't aware that WDFW and tribal leaders, they will get together and have meetings and come to agreement on fisheries that we have no idea what's going on. Well, I have sat in a number of meetings over the years. I went to a commission meeting, a year and a half ago, where folks have been screaming for transparency. Right. We've been asking for transparency for a long time because there seems to be a lot of behind closed door meetings that happen, and they do. There are people who have threatened lawsuits and things before. The commission has taken the position, and the director at the time at WDFW, back when this was like a hot button, had taken the position to say the tribes are a sovereign nation.
Right.
It is, I don't want to say a luxury, that's not truly the word they use, but it is to their benefit, the WDFW's benefit, to be able to sit down with the tribes and negotiate and build the fisheries as they are presented to the general public. They have educated everybody to the fact that if WDFW is to push for open door meetings, allow the public to come in and sit down and watch the shenanigans, the painstaking process of coming to agreement on our fisheries that ultimately we get exposed to, the tribes won't show up.
Right.
They've made it known that they will not come to an open public forum and sit down and have negotiations with WDFW. They don't need to. They're their own government. They choose not to meet in an open public forum, and thereby, with those rules in place, if WDFW was to say, well, then we're not meeting because you guys won't meet out in the public, then the tribes go off to NOAA. They submit their own structured fisheries. They receive their own permitting process. They get permits in hand, and guess what? They go fishing. And then we sit on the sidelines and can't fish, like happened in, I believe it was 2016, the last time this unfolded. Excuse me.
So you're talking mostly about the North of Falcon meetings.
Yes, so, backing up, yes.
So, to fill in our viewers, who is involved in the, you're saying the tribes and WDFW, but is there other state agencies that are involved too also?
No, so the co-managers come to agreement, but what they do in the process, the build up to having those meetings to finalize the fisheries that eventually we get exposed to is, there's a collection of groups out there that represent different regions and zones, right? You got the Puget Sound groups of folks that meet, and they weigh in and give advice to WDFW on, okay, here's the preseason forecast, here's the runs coming back. We would like to see Area 9 open from this date to this date, and we think the quota should be this for the recreational side.
So there is input coming from recreational fishing, groups, and
much like I used to be involved down here in the Grace Harbor group. We would meet throughout that process. You construct fisheries, you model fisheries with the biologists and the fishery managers per region, and you come up with what you feel is a good plan. Now,
but those representatives are not allowed to sit in on the meeting. Okay.
Why not?
Why not?
That's always been the question. And if we back up what I just said earlier is the tribes say they don't want to meet in public forum. They want to meet with WDFW exclusively. By law, apparently, that we've been led to believe, that is the only persons they are that they have to meet with. They don't have to meet with public. They don't have to let public see any of this that goes on.
Wouldn't they want to do this just for like a good neighbor policy, or for any reason, for just to be a little more acceptant?
Bill, I've asked that for years, and you would think, especially in the with the development of social media blowing up the way it does. There are a lot of tribe haters out there, and a lot of tribe bashers, and a lot of inappropriate stuff is said online. There's a lot of people throwing crap at the tribes that's not deserved. But then it comes back from them. There's things they could do to clean house to maybe present themselves in a little better fashion. But if you really don't care, which we all have friends in the tribe, and when you talk to them, they're like, no, we're working on this stuff. We're trying, right? But it only takes a couple of young kids to go out and just abuse their privileges, and then it spreads like wildfire on social media, and it blows up, and that tribe sucks, and this tribe sucks, and pretty soon that gets out there amongst our groups, and everybody, hates the tribes. Well, at the end of the day, we need sensible people, like-minded folks from both sides that share in this fishery, that share in the management of the fisheries, that share in common goals to bring our fisheries back, to be forthcoming with information, truly be conservationists above table, and monitor your fisheries, put the numbers out there, truly grasp what's going on. There is a disconnect, and I guarantee it, there are certain elements in this process. In talking with those within WDFW at times, there's stuff that the tribes are kind of putting together that this side over here, we don't really know if that's true or accurate. And the tribes have the same position. And they, at times, they call each other out on misrepresenting numbers. Historically, they can always push it back and go, your punch card system is a joke. your catch and release mortality is an absolute joke. You cannot guarantee those fish swam away. You give it a percentage of mortality. We consider it, if it's hooked and released, it's dead. So we got to come to an agreement on where we at on that percentage. I mean, there's a lot of little things along the way that they have to come to agreement on, right? So
I've heard discrepancies on little things just like spawning bed counts. They've sent people up there who are counting things as spawning beds that may be elk prints.
Yeah.
And they're counting it as a spawning bed. So
Right.
look at this tremendous counts we're getting up here when they're actually, it's nowhere near what it should be. Either the people aren't skilled enough to do it or they're releasing some false information. Why, I don't know.
So when you come to the table and you go, okay, what do you guys got for preseason forecast numbers? For an example, for whatever XYZ basin. WDFW biologists and managers and staff, they run their numbers, they take all their preseason indicators and they go, we think 50,000 Chinook are coming back to this river. I mean, just throwing a random number out, that would never happen. But let's say 5,000 Chinook. 5,000 Chinook come back to this river. The tribes, they take their biologists and their calculations and the formulas they use, which aren't necessarily even remotely close to being the same. They come up with a different number. They go, we think 10,000 fish are coming back. So we're going to build our fisheries based on a 10,000 count. WDFW says, well, we obviously have to build ours off of conservation. We know if we balloon these up, NOAA's never going to give us permits. So we got to be on the conservation side of things. So we're going to build and construct our fisheries on the 5,000. And some of those drag on for quite some time until they can even come to agreement on what's truly coming back. And then they can build the fishery around a modeled number that they both agree to.
I'll give you an example of what I saw, I'll say 6 years ago, it doesn't really matter, on the Upper Hope, way up in the park. I'm fishing there 2 days in a row, and I saw a couple scuba guys come down, they're tribal. They were counting reds.
I remember this story,
And I said, how'd you guys do? What do you see out there? They go, this is like April 10th. Premium time for steelhead spawning. The guys are just going, we saw one spawning bed, possibly two. And the guy was just forlorn and, almost suicidal. The next day, there was 3 people coming down from the WDFW doing spawning count beds. How'd you guys do? Oh, we counted about 30 beds.
Wow.
Okay. Did 29 pairs of steelhead spawn overnight, right? Or somebody not know what they're doing, or somebody does, and that's the kind of numbers that make me wonder.
Are we padding the numbers?
When I hear,
I mean,
is somebody making something up, or somebody not saying them? That's what
I would love it if somebody at WDFW could say, we have 100% trust in our co-management relationship. And I would love it if the tribes would say, we absolutely have a wonderful, harmonious relationship. And I think, for the most part, at times, it's getting better. I think there are things going on and conversations happening that didn't happen years previous. But I still think we have a long ways to go. This particular, now that we've gone off, trail there, but this particular article that's been posted out there, and you can follow it to truly gauge what's going on if you want to or have a desire, that you can get on the Twin Harbors Fish Wildlife Advocacy website.
That's THFWA, their initials, .org. And it's a great website.
And it's all right there in the updates. They just recently had another hearing here in Olympia. WDFW has tried to say, no, we don't, want to proceed on this level of it, and a judge said, no, you will. So they're actually going to end up in a court battle over this thing. For what purpose? Well, they're ultimately wanting to get the doors open. They want transparency. Now, we got a lot of friends at WDFW too, and matter of fact, Tom Ryle was in here last week, and he's one of their marketing guys, and he and I have had several conversations, and one of the biggest issues that they are trying to work through is obviously what everybody's been calling for, transparency.
Trust and transparency.
To what level do you take that? I mean, transparency as far as information you put on your website and projects going on and keeping people educated and up to speed on opportunities or, I mean, do you full on go to this level of structured meetings and meeting with co-managers and really getting into some of the weeds that people want to dig into that thus far the doors have always been shut and locked, right?
I don't think there should be a door shut at all, and anything that either side wants to know,
it's a public
they should
agency.
Freely share.
Freedom of Information Act should allow you to be a part of it.
That is one that a lot of folks were chasing back in the day, within the last couple of years. And actually, if I recall, I sat at that commission meeting. There was an attorney. I believe he was the assistant to the district attorney. Actually, was there. He read through the letter of the law as far as Public Disclosure and Public Information Act, and he basically broke it down at the state level to say that's all fine and good on our side, but it doesn't include. You cannot apply this law to the tribes because they're a sovereign nation, and they don't fall under Washington state law in that regard. So when he basically spelled that out in their PowerPoint presentation, I was like, oops.
Yeah.
Anyway, excuse me. God, I'm still fighting that bug. So,
You'll make it.
Go to the website, check it out. You can follow the weekly updates if they are. You can follow anytime they have a hearing here in Olympia. See how this progresses. This could set precedents. Depending where this goes, how the judge rules on this, where it ends up. It may change some of the rules and laws that WDFW has to abide by. It may, at some point, open doors to a certain point. I have no idea.
Right.
You know, Tim Hamilton and those guys, they're putting in their effort and getting after this thing, and we'll see where it goes. But I figured it was worth putting on folks' radar because there's a lot going on here.
Yeah, I'd really like to see people go to that website and check it out and, respond to them and, and thank them for the work they're doing, because they're putting out a ton of work on this.
Yes.
And it's really uncovered. I mean, even for me, when I went to the website today to get ready for the show, I was like, holy cow, these guys are doing a lot.
Yeah.
Like, they are working behind the scenes.
It didn't just pop up like a week ago.
Right.
This has been...
Right.
I mean, they have information backing this thing up.
And I get almost weekly email updates from the group that I see all the time and read through all the time, but I didn't... Still, getting those and reading through those, didn't realize how much work they were doing until I went to their website today.
And for the department, for WDFW, I mean, it's yet another thing that they can't just, push off because they're so busy with everything else. This is some serious legal issues that they have to deal with their attorneys, tying them up in court. Money's being spent out of a budget they don't have.
Right, and that's why I think that, we've seen the wild fish groups and everything else, just litigation after litigation after litigation, and unfortunately, that gets stuff done for your group. I mean, it doesn't help for, the burden that the state has already, but it's good to see some, recreational advocacy groups, saying, okay, well, if you guys want to play that game, then we'll play that game too.
Yeah, the status quo is no longer good enough. People aren't accepting the answer given to you at a particular open public meeting. It's like, well, this is it, and that's all we got. And folks nowadays are kind of like, no, I think there's more.
Well, it doesn't work in the era of information that we have.
Good point.
I mean, it just doesn't work. I mean, information is at your fingertips. When guys want to dig in and find it, they can find it, and guys are passionate about this stuff.
20 years ago, Bill, this didn't matter.
No.
Nobody gave a crap.
Why?
Because we were catching fish.
There you go. Do you think now, in this day and age, right now, if we had open salmon seasons, long seasons, great limits, steelhead in every river, lots of hatchery fish to catch, like when the summer runs open up. Now, do you think this would even be an issue?
Nope.
It would be an afterthought.
Nope. Right. Nobody would care. So, all right, boy, we spent a little time on that one. Speaking of the list of agreed fisheries, which is, I guess I need to just pinpoint on that for a second before we close the door on the closed door. The list of agreed to fisheries is a process that those 20 tribes and WDFW come together on, and they have those meetings and they walk down, itemize this list of all basins, all fisheries, saltwater fisheries, freshwater fisheries, warm lake species, by chance. They come to agreement on this stuff. They go back to their constituents in their user groups, and they try to model these fisheries. So it's kind of the back and forth process. At times, I feel like these fisheries have already been agreed to.
Right.
They're sitting in these meetings listening to people because it's the right thing to do. But I don't know. It does have a positive outcome in some regard. There is a piece of that is important. Don't give up on that process. But this whole deal, going into our second topic here, Lake Sammamish, warm water test net fishery, gill net in lakes for warm water species.
Right.
The guys over there at Northwest Sportsman's Magazine did a phenomenal job. It's a lengthy article.
Yes.
Lengthy article, lots of insight. But when you hear gillnet in a lake, large body lake like Lake Sammamish, Lake Washington, and they're going after warm water species, and for a few fishermen that have been out, if you read through the story,
Yeah.
you're going to find that the answer has been, well, we're doing test net fisheries, we're conducting some experiments, seeing what's here. And you kind of read through this. Andy Wogbaum, those guys did a great job kind of digging and finding some factual information that supports this. Now, these agreed to fisheries, warm water species, I mean, I got to read a few things within this article because there's so much going on here. I couldn't possibly memorize it in this little brain that I've been gifted with.
Well, I even read the article myself and then came to you with questions.
I know.
Going, so what is
your eyes were crossed, so I thought, okay, I'm not the only one. The LOAF, the list of agreed to fisheries, essentially lays out all of Western Washington salmon fisheries in the salt, in the freshwater, negotiated between the state, 20 plus tribes, and in the back are the numbers of appendixes. Now, if you look through that report, you're going to find pages 83 through 85. It details what is termed as the 2019-2020 warm water test fisheries. These are to collect data whether directed fisheries on spiny rays in Lake Washington watershed, this is an interesting spin on this, could be commercially viable. So, on one hand, you're going, oh, we're just trying to gauge, and we'll get into this a little bit, we're trying to gauge the amount of predation based on the warm water species and the spiny ray within Lake Sammamish, Lake Washington, right? Okay, I get that.
Sure.
They pulled out a bunch of walleye. They were like, holy crap, somebody's been bucket biology, we got all these walleye in here. Predation is a major issue, Lake Washington, for the sockeye.
Right.
90%, the millions upon millions of dollars they dumped in that Cedar Creek hatchery and trying to bring that sockeye fishery back, Bill.
It's a big bird feeder, what they're doing.
It's a huge bird feeder.
Yeah.
And the predation amongst a 7-fin smelt. They have they got the squawfish, they got the smallmouth, they got the cutthroat. The predation, upwards of 90% on years they have gauged loss to predation. Remember, those sockeye fry leave the river, they dump into that lake, and it's just a wall of death.
And this is, I've talked about this before, this is that predator-prey relationship that is skewed because of the hatchery system, and now we don't manage the predators like we used to, and we have this weird situation where, like I was saying with the coyotes and the rabbits, is we don't have rabbit hatcheries.
Right.
So we're not pumping rabbits out and then seeing this huge explosion of coyote population, but we have salmon hatcheries. So we're flooding these fish into a system where the predator population is just exploding.
Right.
Sure.
And then, of course, now we get to a point where we're dealing with funds and cutbacks and everything else, and now we're seeing devastation.
We've built this predation monster, but we don't have a way to curtail it back.
Right.
It's here.
It's here.
And we keep feeding it.
And it's here. As long as we feed it, it's going to continue to balance or grow. And we have to figure out either we manage those predators or we bite a bullet and reduce the hatchery production so the predators will manage themselves.
Exactly.
You know, and I'm not for that. Like, I want to fish.
Sure, but the pike minnow population in Lake Washington in the last 20 plus years has blown up exponentially.
Yep.
Because of what we're all the sockeye fry. And of course, when a species of fish is being fed well and they have basically no predators, what's going to happen? They're going to go, whoop, you know,
or
like
a pinniped being fed well.
Same thing. Now let's take these gill nets down by the mouth of the Cedar River about this time of year when all the sockeye smolts are coming down, the fry are coming down.
Yep.
Have at it.
Yeah.
If you go and look in the Cedar, you know where the library is, hangs over on the highway there? If you go look in the water this time of year when it's clear enough, you can't see the bottom. It's paved with 2 miles of northern pike minnow.
Yep.
Wow. You think anything is going to get through that wall of death?
Nope.
No way in hell.
That is
get out of there.
Yes.
There's cutthroat and rainbow and smallmouth and God knows what else out there waiting for.
When I hear that these fisheries are being discussed and for evaluating the levels of predation and if we use a certain mesh size, we're going to mop them suckers up. We're not going to impact the ESA listed, Chinook smolt that might be in the lake. We're not going to impact anything else that would be in there that we're trying to protect. Right. And we're going to get rid of this predation deal. Thumbs up, right? Everybody agree. That's a good thing.
Ding.
When I read things that say, is it commercially viable? And you kind of go, well, what's the intent here? Well, the intent, and Bill, you kind of mentioned this at the start of the show. Well, first of all, understand that in Lake Washington, for example, the crappie have been in Lake Washington since 1890. I don't know who was around back then that was able to tell them that, but crappie have been there since 1890. Largemouth were introduced in 1918, and the smallmouth in around 1960. So those predators have been there a long time, creating imbalance. But back then, it wasn't an issue on anybody's radar because there's plenty of fish.
Sure.
Right? So moving forward, we've already touched on the fact that predation in Washington is 90% on our sockeye. So how long have they been doing this? This is the third year that the Muckleshoots will be conducting this type of activity. And they are coming forward at face value to say the potential interaction with public could be negative. So they've taken a proactive approach, which I appreciate, to say that we are providing monthly reports on their test fisheries, including gear used, when it was fished, for how long, and they're reporting all that to NOAA. So the guys over at the Northwest Sportsman Magazine dug into NOAA, said, hey, what do you got for information provided this year? And they surmised that so far 2,850 fish have been caught in the gill nets. Okay, out of that number, over a 2-month period, roughly 60%, which were native species, and 40% were non-native. Just over 53% in the overall catch was comprised of large-scale suckers. So they're mopping up the suckers, but the last time I checked, the suckers aren't a huge threat to smolt.
Unless you're a snail.
Yeah, exactly.
Problem.
They also accounted for about 580 smallmouth bass and about 250 crappies. So if you're a smallmouth bass fisherman on Sammamish or Washington, if they're conducting those fisheries, you're probably going to start getting a little upset to think that, doggone it, now the tribes are going in there. The first couple paragraphs, it indicates they're testing to see if it's commercially viable.
Right.
Which gives me great concern to think, okay, we've wiped out all our anadromous fisheries. Gill nets have had a hand in that for years, along with recreational fishing and the imbalance and all that. We don't have to dig into all that. But now we're going to apply gill nets to our warm water species, and Lake Washington, Lake Sammamish, phenomenal smallmouth fisheries. And a lot of persons who have transitioned to say, well, you've screwed up the anadromous, we're going after the spiny ray and the warm fish. Oh, now you're going to gill net those two. So what do I got left? Carp?
Carp
week. I told Ronald last week.
Carp week.
Carp week.
Let's go back to 1980 real quick.
Yep.
How many commercial boats back then? I know what I saw back in Hood Canal. Let's just go Hood Canal, 1980.
Okay.
Did you see for chum or pink salmon back then? Virtually nothing.
Yeah.
Those fish were untouched. They were scrap fish for all rights and purposes. Until the glamour fish, Chinook and the coho, went bye-bye. All of a sudden, the chum and the pink
became a viable market.
So you see what's happening here?
I do.
Right.
Those who think this won't happen have not been paying attention to history.
Yeah. I mean, you let it repeat
it happens
itself.
over and over. I mean, we saw it on the Columbia River with the sturgeon. When the salmon runs decline, people started targeting sturgeon, and then now we see them crashing.
Sure. Exactly.
So
okay, we push those to the envelope here. We are way up behind a break. I don't even know what time we started here. I think we're a little late.
Break?
We can break.
Who's telling us we have to take a break?
Yeah, David over there is waving that break flag.
We don't have those kind of people around here. We don't have anybody telling us what to do, Dwayne.
You know what? We're not taking any commercial breaks tonight. We're just no. We are, because we appreciate our contributing sponsors.
We do,
helping us out here. So
and I've been drinking a lot of liquids. So
yes, you have. So Bill needs a break. All right, we are going to jump out for a break. We got through those two, which kind of actually envelop each other in regards to what's going on. Check that stuff out online. You can dig it up very easily. Go to Northwest Sportsman's Magazine to check out this recent article on the warm water fisheries and get educated in that regard. Kind of keep track of what's going on this predation issue on some of those up northern lakes, because it is important to see where those will go in the future. Also, check out what's going on down here in Twin Harbors with the lawsuits. Again, very interesting information as we shape fisheries in the future, and where this will lead WDFW to try, perhaps have to make some changes or not. I mean, it's up to litigation in the courts. We'll see where it all ends up. We're going to jump out for a break. We come back, we're delving into Kokanee for sure. We got at least 3 or 4 different lakes in comparison. You and your historical nugget is going to walk us through. I'm going to try to squeeze in time. We got to get that Bigfoot story in.
Okay.
It was supposed to be in our opening, but we drug these other ones off on a great educational trail, by the way.
Right.
Well done.
Right.
So we come back after this break. Bill Herzog in the studio. Going to break down 3 or 4 different Kokanee lakes for you. And don't go anywhere because this is a Bigfoot story you have to hear. Join us here back after the break right here, FHM.
At Metal Supermarkets, we understand your need for fast access to a wide variety of metals, so we've made it easy. Our network of stores carries a wide variety of metal in all different types, shapes, sizes, and grades, with no required minimum order size. Who could ask for more? Simply tell us your dimensions online, on the phone, or in store, and we'll cut or process the metal to your desired size, often while you wait. We offer same-day service and can deliver the metal right to your door or job site. We even source hard-to-find metals, so no matter what you're looking for, Metal Supermarkets can provide it for you. And we're conveniently located with brick-and-mortar stores in Seattle and Portland, so you can check out our extensive stock for yourself. Superior customer service is guaranteed. Quality service from real people who know metal. We are the small quantity metal experts. To place an order, simply call a store to talk to one of our knowledgeable customer service representatives. Fill out a quote request online, order off of our e-commerce website, or visit one of our many locations and pick out the metal you want. Whether you're a small or large business, government, homeowner, or hobbyist, we make it easy for you to buy the exact metal and just the amount you need. We've been doing this for over 30 years, so we know how to get it done. Metal Supermarkets, the convenience stores for metal. Visit or call a Metal Supermarket store near you today.
Need a flashlight, put it right here.
Hey, we're back. I'm sitting here scrolling through my phone. Welcome back to FHN. Almost caught me off guard, dude. It's over there waving the flag again. We are out of sorts tonight, boys.
We are.
Got too much going on. That's okay. I'm going to flip things around here. Bill, we're going to jump right into the Bigfoot story.
Well, okay.
It's there's a lot of historical value, I think.
Why do we feel like we need like 3 bush lights and a campfire?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I mean,
it should
that's
be
what I
pitch
wanna be-
black right
It's
now.
going to be dark.
You should be holding a flashlight under your chin.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
It was just like this.
Yeah.
All right, let's hear it, man. This was what year, and you were?
I can tell you where this started and why I remember it so well. It was a day that I'll never forget for 2 reasons. Number one, it was the day the 49ers won their first Super Bowl. January 24th, 1981.
Okay, so before the Seahawks were good.
Yeah.
January 24th, 1981.
So my buddies and I are sitting around, we go, let's go glow balling for Steelhead.
Right.
What a great idea.
Out on the OP.
So we go to the OP.
Okay.
And well, I'll tell you the river, it was a little duckabush back then. It had steelhead and was open,
Right.
full of fish. Let's go down there because people were down there during the day. We go, we're going to go at nighttime.
Right.
Yeah. So it's quite a hike down in this one spot, down to the one part of the river. And we get down there and there's a big log, good sized big dead log, and the 3 of us are standing on this log. And the river's about as far apart I'd say about 70, 80 feet to the other bank. And by the other bank just goes up into Nowheresville. There's nothing back there but OP, right? And just where nobody goes.
Right.
So we're down there and we're casting our glow balls. We have 2 lanterns right there and we're charging them up and casting out there pretty soon. God, boom, just crack. You know, the whoosh, wall of water, like, what the, dude? You know, something, and we're on kind of a flat, so there's nothing over our heads.
Right.
And we thought a branch fell out of the water. Wet. And we're like,
seems reasonable.
And seconds later, crack, whoosh, again, knocks one of the lanterns over. We're like, what is going on? You throw rocks, like, knock that off. We will not do nothing. What? And then, out of the light, I just happen to look over out of the light, and I see something as big as a watermelon coming into the light, lands right in front from me to you. And when a rock this big hits the water from being thrown 50 feet or whatever it was, and it goes, oh, so we're just, man, what is going on? So out of the light, you can barely see across the river. There's 2 shapes over there with bright pinkish red eyes. And you can see them moving, and they're kind of making these movements like this, kind of back and forth. There's 2 of them over there.
Huh.
And we think it's somebody over there.
Yeah.
And we're going like, hey, you know, expletives, knock it off, expletive, you know, not cool. And my buddy goes, dude, it's 2 o'clock in the morning. It's pitch black. It's January. You across the river, it's fairly high. Those aren't people. I go, what? And then again, bang, another rock. We're like, we're out of here.
Yeah.
Okay. We're like, I don't know what's going on. I don't know if they can't hit us or can't throw it far enough or just trying to scare us or whatnot. I'm like, we're out of here. If you grab the lantern, and we book down this trail. We're thinking we're going to meet, you know, Harry right there in the middle of the trail, right? We're scared. You can't even imagine. We pop on the next gravel bar downstream, and we're just, and right when we pop on that gravel bar, kaboom, another rock. They had ran down the other side right with us. Now, my buddy, who shall remain nameless, if he's watching this, he'll know, just got out of the Navy, and he was a badass, okay? He was frozen in his tracks with fear. He could not move.
Wow.
Frozen. We just grabbed him. Let's go! We drug him. We go bombing out of there. We're fully rubber weighted up, and we're going. We could have won an Olympic sprint. I promise you. We went up the hill, jumped in the truck, took off. None of us spoke of this for months.
Right.
One of
None of us spoke of this.
One of my friends on this day will still not talk about it. He won't. You bring it up, he's just silent. The other one still can't believe it. So he went back. There's an addendum to this.
Oh.
The guy who was frozen in his tracks went back down there opening day with a complete non-believer. The guy goes, man, you guys would probably die or something. You know, like, yeah, come on, let's go back. I'm not going back down there, man. I'm not doing it. And he says,
no booze, no mushrooms,
no enhancements.
No enhancements.
Wow.
No pain meds.
So my buddy goes down to the second spot, and they're fishing opening day for steelhead.
Yeah.
Daylight.
It's still it's quite dark. It's pre-dawn. They're down there. They want to get down there before everybody else. And they're globe on. And sure enough, my buddy, the guy, the non-believer, who was up on a rock, comes all the way down. And he goes, do you see something over there moving in the bushes? What is that over there? And they look over there, and as soon as they look, boom, here come the rocks again. And the guy's like, oh my God. He goes, I told you, man.
Yeah, we're out of here.
So it happened to him twice down in that spot. Yeah.
And to this day, you honestly believe.
Well, how far? Now, you're a pretty good sized dude.
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
How far could you throw a rock this big?
That's a 200-pound rock.
Oh, yeah?
How far? Could you maybe, I could do this. I could go, blam, and drop it, and then,
done.
Hernia, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, whatever this was throwing watermelon-sized rocks. Fairly simple, 40 to 50
Did you even think about going back the next day looking for footprints, something weird, something like, where'd they pull these rocks out of?
Yeah. Okay, and here's the best part. The other side of the river is Devil's Club, deep, leaves, it's heavy. Everybody knows the OP, it's heavy, pretty heavy ground.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So we wait till the water drops. Oh, yeah. We cross, we're over there looking. There is not a rock this big over there, the size of a 50-cent piece. There's no
anywhere
rocks.
around.
There's no rock. There's boulders in the river, and there's rock formations. There's no rocks. There's no rocks. There's not a footprint anywhere over there.
Right.
If something was walking over there, it's so deep and so grown over with leaves and fallen debris and whatnot. I don't think you could tell. We saw no sign. And wherever they got these rocks from, they packed them from quite a ways because there was no rocks.
Wow.
No lights anywhere. Yeah.
So, there you go. That's how I started that post. Is weird things happen in the woods.
In the woods, yeah.
And whatever you point your finger at,
right?
I mean, we all have stories, and that's why after the show today, we're gonna record a new episode of Sustainable Wild Podcast. Right. We're gonna dive into some of these stories that we have from the water, in the woods. Okay. I have a few stories myself that are a little bit creepy.
Okay.
And we'll dive into those.
I was never so freaked out in my whole life. I'm looking at something, and your conscious mind is telling you, okay, your rational mind says, that's not there.
That didn't happen.
That's impossible. Right. You're going through, okay, it's a person. Can't be somebody, it's too big. It's got to be something else, but the whole thought of Bigfoot never is in there. You're trying to figure out, okay, what's going on, and you're trying to be cool until you realize what you're looking at. That's... Yep, something. We're out of here.
Yep. a little bit of that fear and unsettledness comes back still today when you talk about it.
If I didn't have a shirt, I'd show you.
I have a couple stories.
Yeah, you're reliving it right now in your head.
It's pretty trippy. If it didn't happen to me, I was one of those guys who went, whatever. But now it's,
Okay.
You got it.
Well, there you have it.
Right.
I have yet to have an encounter of such, so I have no idea how to wrap my head around this.
It's like saying I've never put my hand on a hot element on a stove. You pretty much wouldn't enjoy it.
Yeah, true. Sounds interesting. Okay. We're going to scale it down a little as it gets smaller now. So, done talking about Bigfoot. Right. You think his foot's big, by the way.
We're going to get into Bigfoot.
We're going to get into some Kokanee. Bill, we got 4 lakes, of which you and I have probably fished all of them at one time or another. Talking for the most part American, Merwin, Stevens, and Sutherland.
Right.
All of which on the west side here at times can be fantastic. And not only numbers of production, but size of fish, quality of fish, and that's cyclical. I mean, we've talked about this for years that, Kokanee can have an outstanding, amazing season one year and go back the next year, and it's like, where'd they all go?
Sure.
So it's now right at the start of June, right? We're getting into June, Kokanee prime time. I mean, May's been good. June, typically, I've done extremely well in a lot of these lakes in June. I guess I could mention Summer Lake as well, seeing how it's right in the backyard.
You don't want to fish in your backyard.
You don't want to fish in your backyard. And those different bodies of waters, one thing I've recognized because of geographically where they're located, I mean, there can be quite a variance in water temperatures. The lakes, depth-wise, are considerably different. There's a lot of different things that contribute to either success or struggles. Going into June, keeping those 4 lakes in mind, let's pick 1 or 2 and talk about it. Some things guys should be aware of, or tricks and techniques they should utilize, try to use this time of year if they're struggling for Kokanee.
Well, there's 2 lakes that could not be any polar opposite. Let's go American on one side and Lake Sutherland on the other and talk about it.
Yep.
On one side, we have primarily fish that have been planted.
Right.
Sutherland fish are all wild.
Yep.
All prodigy of the old sockeye runs back in the Elwha back. They're all wild fish.
Isn't that exciting?
Yeah. What's cool about that is, in the American Lake, we joke about it. We call it the black diamond fishery, because if you can catch a fish in American Lake, you can catch a Kokanee anywhere.
Right.
I've been pretty fortunate, so have you. We've been to all these amazing Kokanee places everywhere in all these states. I will put, if you can catch a fish in American, you can go anywhere and catch a fish, because those fish you have to really have your tackle scaled down in colors and speed, and you got to be nailed. It's got to be nailed, or you won't score there. A good day on American Lake is 5 fish. If you get a 5-fish day there in the normal years, and they're going to be beautiful, big, well-fed fish, there's another reason why they're hard to catch.
Sure.
They eat so well, and their feeding time is very short, and they can be picky. They don't care. Now let's go over to Sutherland, where these fish, it's tackle box challenge. I have never found any Kokanee rig they will not eat, because they're wild fish. We know how well a wild fish bites. You can't, and these immediately, you'll know when they hit, they just start leaping immediately. They jump and they jump and they jump and they jump. Just ask the eagles there that'll take them off your line. And then they'll do that. I've never seen a fish easier to catch than in Lake Sutherland. And I've never seen a fish harder to catch than in the American Lake. But they're both Kokanee. Right?
Yes, and those wild fish are amazing because, like you said, they are so scrappy. Not only do they just freight train your presentation, pop it out of the clip, and you get it in. It's a 13-inch Kokanee. You're like, where are you getting all this strength and ability, right? The cool thing over there is the first time I went and fished that, you and River were just getting done. Me and my buddy Jim got off work, drove from Pierce County area on out to Sutherland. We literally launched the boat. This is back when I was in the drift boat. And we started fishing at 10 a.m. Full sun on the water.
Sure.
Ended up being 92 degrees that day. We fished from 10 a.m. to 2 till it was getting a little scorcher out there. And finally, Bill got there early daylight. They went out, caught, got their limits. They were getting off the water as we were pulling in. We go out midday, full sun, didn't matter. Got our limits in no time.
It would have been faster if you'd have landed them all.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, true story.
Yeah,
and I was like, holy smokes, this is... And when you spend a lot of time on American, or you trek all the way down to Merwin, and you go up there, which is a great fishery, fishing very well this time of year. Guys are doing fairly good that have put a little time in there. You and I, a sight unseen, hadn't fished it before. We show up, take a bunch of dudes fishing a few years ago, and we're into Kokanee like crazy.
And that was early season.
And it was early season. It was cold. It was windy. A little bit of rain. We still were able to find them. You just key in on a few things consistently when you're basically hunting and pecking and trying to find them. Find them schooled up, keep circling around on them, rely on your electronics to find them, different depths, different presentations, figure out what they want, different scents, different baits, and once you figure out the go-to trigger, fish it on all rods until they quit biting it, then go through the process again.
When Merwin, when the fish start to go down, as all Kokanee do when the water gets warmer, you have to really be aware of the forest, the sunken forest.
Yeah.
In Merwin, you'll be donating gear and downriver balls like you can't believe.
Yeah.
You pretty much got to stay in the middle of that lake, or else. There's a couple spots you can get off to the side in a couple of bays and fish, but pay attention to your electronics in there, else you'll be donating a lot of gear.
The Kokanee there this year are fat, they're healthy, decent size. If you're on the west side this year fishing Kokanee, Chelan's always a great opportunity to get on the road and go fish, but if you want to catch some dinks, go spend some time there. Unless you want to spend a little time going after them Chinook, which I would strongly suggest you do.
That's something that I would do. I've been to Chelan once this year, and we caught our limit in like 35 seconds.
And they're all dinks.
And they're all the size of green label herring. That's not. But that's a normal year for Chelan. What we saw in 2012 and 2013. Amazing, crazy year. But
would you love to get back to that?
I hope we see that again.
Yeah, absolutely. But on this west side here, Merwin's fishing well. Sutherland will always fish well, and it gets very little pressure because it's kind of out on the outskirts of Port Angeles. But American Lake is American Lake. It's off and on. Some of the guys that are the go-tos go out there, they hammer out a limit one week, go out there next week, get blanked. It's American Lake.
The next day.
Yeah.
Then they'll get those, I got the colors, I got the scent, got it down.
Yep.
They'll get, their 3 to 4 nice big Kokanee. And this is great. And go back the next day, biological desert.
There are a few other lakes in Pierce County which will remain nameless because they're smaller and get enough pressure, and they're actually kicking out a few decent fish this year. So the Kokanee fishing on the west side here in Washington is actually doing pretty well. Lakes down in Oregon are starting to kick out some fish. Green Peter has high numbers, smaller fish as well. Lake Odell, and there's definitely opportunity. The weather's going to be extremely nice now. As far as we roll into June now, the weather is balancing out to where we have very little rain in the forecast. Which will be interesting. The temperatures will continue to rise, and as you alluded to, Bill, those Kokanee will begin to go deeper. So a little bit later here in the show, we're going to jump into the bait lab. We're going to break down how to outfit yourself, your boat, for Kokanee on a budget, give you some tricks of the trade that back in the day Bill and I used religiously and had great success in finding Kokanee. We're going to walk through a series. I got a number of different rods and reels options in there to take a look at depending on where your wallet is and how much you do or don't want to spend. You can actually get it done pretty reasonable. You don't need big electronic downriggers, but they sure are nice to have. We'll talk about dropping lead for them. We got a whole lot of different things we're going to cover there in the bait lab a little later on. But before we get into there, we are going to jump out for a quick break. And let me see here. You know what? When we come back, I guess we'll tackle that. Yep. We'll stay on the Kokanee trend right now. We'll do that. Huh?
Groovy.
Yeah, man. So we'll take a quick break. We come back. We're going to be in the bait lab. We're going to break down simplicity for Kokanee right here on FHM. Hey guys, welcome back to FHN, and we're obviously here in the bait lab. So we're going to take a little walk through of all these different fishing rods I have and reels on the top of the table here. We got a little bit of basic downrigger information to share with you, and just some really effective ways of getting to kokanee and being successful pursuing kokanee and not breaking the bank to do so. So even before we get to these little manual mounted downriggers that I used to fish off of the drift boat, or you can fish them off a little 12-foot boat, we can get even simpler than that. You can simply use lead to get down to the depth that you want. Now there's a couple different charts out there available that show you exactly the depth of water that you will cover depending on how many ounces of weight that you put on, okay? And the troll speed. So this chart that I want to show you today is based on trolling upwards of 1.5 miles per hour. And you can see there that if I use a 1 ounce weight and my setback is 10 feet, that's telling me that it's gonna take my presentation down to 4 foot in depth. Now, I like to fish my presentations typically about 80 to 100 feet behind the boat, believe it or not. So as I look down on that chart at, we'll go to 100 feet. If I'm fishing 1 ounce of lead at 100 feet and trolling no faster than a 1.5 miles per hour, that is gonna get me down to around 17 feet. Typically when I'm pursuing kokanee, I'm in that 1.2 range. So I would say it's safe to presume that I could be down in that 18 to 20 foot depth if I'm 100 feet setback. Now if I bump that to 1.5 ounces or 2 ounces, now I'm getting down into there where we get these June temperatures, driving those fish down to that 20-25 foot depth on some of our lakes. And simply by adding 1.5 ounces or 2 ounces of lead to my presentation, I'm going to get it down into that zone where hopefully I start finding some kokanee. So how do we do that? How do we add lead? Well, I take my basic kokanee rod. Now they're a lightweight rod. Most of them are 2 to 8 or a 4 to 10 or a 4 to 8 pound range. So they can handle 1 ounce, 2 ounces. Some guys will run up to 3 ounces, but depending on the size of kokanee that you're after, if you're adding 3 ounces of lead onto your presentation, it kind of negates the opportunity to fight the fish just because they're pulling against so much lead. They don't have a lot of spunk left in them. So basic kokanee presentation, all right? I think we can all agree on that. We're just running an Aeroflash Dodger. Got a little hoochie set up here. I don't want to put weight right above this swivel and think that my Dodger is going to perform the way it is designed to do so. I need to give it all the freedom and action that it needs to get doing what it's supposed to do in the water as an attractor. So I go literally a couple feet up my line and I clip on my lead. Now there's a couple different ways to do it. I have found great success with these little slider carriages. They simply just slide on your line, and there's a couple ways to do this. I like to use the rubber bobber stops, so I can spread these out and you can see what I'm talking about. So now that I've spread out those stops, this lead can flow freely back and forth on my line. Now you can fish it like that. There's nothing wrong with a traveling lead. Sometimes when you get fish close to the boat and you get the net out there, much like when we're pursuing their bigger brothers in Chinook and we fish those droppers on a slider, same principle. You're not going to get this stuff caught up in the net as much as if it was fixed. But oftentimes, because it's such a little bit of weight, we're not talking like 16 or 20 ounce cannonball, I take that slider and with a bead on either side of it, I can run these bobber stops down and basically pin that wherever I want to on my line. And on this one, I'm just with a dual lock snap underneath that slider. I've pinned a single 1 ounce cannonball on my main line. That's going to allow me to have just that extra amount of weight that I need to get to the depth that I want. Now I can hang a 2 or a 3 ounce on there. Again, I am going to run that a couple feet from the Dodger so that when the Dodger is in the water and has the freedom to move back and forth, I don't have that weight sitting right against it because it's going to negate the true action of that Dodger, okay? So that is one way to do it. It's pretty simple. It's going to allow you, as we transition from early season to mid-season, those kokanee begin to drop down deeper in the water column. It's going to allow you to get down into that 20-foot range or so. You can look up different charts on the internet that's going to give you that setback, that weight in ounces of weight that you add to your presentation. And of course, the speed of the troll is the key as far as how much blowback you're going to get. So be mindful of that. Play around with it. If you're marking fish on your electronics and you're trying to get down to them, play around with weights, play around with troll speed, and see if you can't get to the depth that you're after. Now, if you want to spend a little bit more money than just on some 1, 2, or 3 ounce cannonballs and a sliding weight setup and fix it on the main line as we did, you can pick up some real nice small compact downriggers. And again, these small little fiberglass units mount to the side of your drift boat. I fished them off my drift boat for years. Little 12-foot boat, 14-foot boat with an electric troll motor or gas motor, whatever you're utilizing for your troll. These are great because they're compact, they're portable. You just simply tighten them on the side of your boat and you're good to go. The nice thing about this particular model is it does have a depth gauge on here. Now, or a little depth meter, most of these hand crank ones, one time around on your spool with your cable is 1 foot of depth. So you can basically count those. If you don't have a reel counter or a line counter fixed on your downrigger, you can count that each time around is 1 foot of depth, so 30 cranks, you're down 30 feet, okay? These are nice because you don't have to sit there and count and you can truly watch them. Now, once in a while, these will bump and get a little off center. You just need to reset them to make sure they're zeroed out, all right? You simply run these, and there's different brands out there. Scotty makes a couple brands that, again, are hand cranked, but perhaps they are a little bigger in size. They got a little longer boom on them. These are definitely going to fish right alongside your boat. And basically, you know, your rod is coming up out of your rod holder and right back down to the side of your boat. No big deal. We use them for years. We've caught a ton of fish on these. They're not very expensive, and you really only need a 4-pound weight. You know, you got your couple foot clip on there. You put that on. Basically, you can use a 4-pound weight or a 6-pound weight, depending on, again, how deep you're going to go and how fast you're going to troll. But definitely 4 pounds gets it done on your hand crank. 6 pounds is just a little more stable as far as making sure your line is straight vertical up and down and you truly gauge the depth that you're fishing. So just some options. Let's face it, this time of year, you got to start getting down to depth to find the kokanee because they are transitioning and go into that lower water column. They're going to find that thermocline that they like to hang out at. They find their feed. They find their comfort zone as far as water temperature. So they're not going to be on the surface anymore. You got to get down. So lead on your line, small hand crank downriggers is a great way to get started. That's not going to break the bank, okay? Now let's talk about rod and reel options. Now, there's a lot of different kokanee rods that have hit the market the last few years. And it depends. You can spend $150 on a fishing rod, or you can come all the way down to the bottom end here to this Eagle Claw, which for all intents and purposes, as far as a kokanee rod goes and the glass rod, this thing is extremely limber. Not to mention, they actually put a little measurer right here on the butt of the rod in case you forget your tape measure, you want to see how big those fish are. But this rod right here as a starting point for somebody who wants to get into kokanee fishing, maybe it's a good trout rod for the kids and whatnot too. Matter of fact, as an adult, you can have a lot of fun with a rod like this for trout. Now, it doesn't have your high-end guides and things like that, but again, cork handle, standard reel seat, lots of flexibility in this. It definitely will work for kokanee with their soft mouths. $24, basically $25 out the door. You're going to find these Eagle Claw rods. Don't be afraid if you're going to outfit your boat with 3 or 4 rods. Don't want to break the bank. Pick up a handful of those. I think you're going to be pretty happy to get started in the kokanee fish on how they perform. Let's go to the other end of the spectrum. Lamaglass has been around forever, and they make a variety of series of different rods that you can use. We have the standard tournament rods. This 7.5-foot rod in a lady's pink is a fantastic rod. It's a 4 to 8 pound range. It's a 2-piece rod, works very well. It's going to run you about $85, okay? So 85, 7.5 foot, 4 to 8, great kokanee rod. It's tried and true, cork handle. It will last and do a very good job. If you want to go to one of my favorites that they came out with years ago in the kokanee rod realm. Now, one thing about this is the guides, the eyelets and the guides are extremely small, so you can't pass like an indicator knot or anything like that through these guides. And I'll speak on that in a minute when we talk about reels. But this is an 8-foot 2-piece rod, 2 to 8 pound. It actually is one of my favorite rods because it is so, I don't want to say flimsy, but it does have a bit of backbone in the bottom end of this thing, which is nice if you do get some of those bigger fish, or if you utilize your kokanee rods like I like to, when we do have opportunity for sockeye fisheries, that is like the best thing to do. And of course, you can use these for trout, and you get into some of your bigger triploid trout and things like that. These rods are just a kick in the pants to utilize because of the line weight that they are. Classic glass from Lama Glass has been around forever. These rods here, the tournament series, run you about $85. Classic glass is going to run you about $70, $75 depending where you get it. It's a 7.5 foot rod. Make sure I quote this right. Yeah, it's a 6 to 12. It's a little beefier. When you want to talk about doing those those sockeye fisheries, this 6 to 12 is definitely going to get it done. Only rod you'll ever need to buy. It crosses over very well for both sockeye and kokanee. Graphite handle. The cork will never wear out because it doesn't have any in and out rod holders. Sometimes guys are concerned about that. Now I pay attention to that on my saltwater rods because you're in and out of the rod holders a lot. You're putting a lot of pressure on the butts of those rods, in and out rod holders, and you're pulling a lot more weight at depth and speed and all those things. Kokanee rods, for the most part, cork handles will last you a lifetime. You're not beating them up in the rod holders like you would on your bigger saltwater presentations. So don't think you have to have graphite handles that are going to last forever when it comes to kokanee rods. These cork handles are going to do just fine. So that classic glass is great if you're looking for a rod that crosses over in, again, to both kokanee and sockeye. 6 to 12, 7.5 foot, great rod. Pretty good value at about $70, $75. Velocity has been around for quite some time. They're making some great products. This is a 7.5 foot rod, 4 to 8. Again, another option for kokanee. It's going to run you about $80, 75, $80, I think, in that ballpark. So you can see, between your Lama Glass Tournament Series and your Classic and your Velocity, you're all in that anywhere from $75 to $80, $85, just give or take. Just kind of depends what you're after. Again, if I have to pick any of these, I really am partial to the 8 foot. I like the longer rod for kokanee. It's just me. Now, you can go down even just a little bit more. Tika's been making this kokanee rod series for a number of years. It's a 4 to 8. It's a 7.5 foot. It's going to run you about $50. It's a great buy. Again, if you're buying 3 or 4 rods, you can get a kokanee rod for $50. That's a smoking deal. It's a very good rod. It's going to last. It's doing everything you need it to do. And again, all these rods cross over. You can use them for trolling trout too because they work fantastic and they just give you a lot more sensitivity and fun even when you're out pursuing a trout. And the kids are going to love it because of the flexibility of these rods. Let's talk a little bit about reel options. Line counters are fantastic because I really pay attention to my setbacks. So before you clip it into your downrigger, you got to get that line back behind the boat. Now, in theory, a lot of guys like to utilize the idea or concept, the deeper you go, the less further you need to set back on your presentation. For me, it doesn't matter what depth I'm fishing. I've always been one that does a fairly long setback for a couple of reasons. But my number one reason for that is when I'm fishing and I recognize a school of kokanee and maybe they're down at 35 feet and I have my presentations at 20 and 25, maybe 30, but I realize I need to drop down to them just a little more to ensure that I hopefully will entice a strike before I pass through the school. If I am 30 feet behind the boat and I recognize that school of kokanee, I may go to adjust my downrigger. Now, maybe I get it down in time. Chances are, typically, I don't. And I've gone past the school before I've dropped down to the depth to where they're able to bite. So I typically, for the most part, will always utilize setbacks of 80 to 100 feet. I'm downrigger fishing. I don't have to worry about turning corners and things like that with rods on the surface and crossing lines and all that. They're in the clips. They're in control. They're down at depth. If I look and I recognize the school of kokanee and I'm 80 feet back, I got plenty of time to drop my presentation to a couple feet above where they're hanging out at because of, excuse me, I don't want to be obviously fishing below them. So I always, if I'm at 35 feet marking fish, 37 feet, I'm going to drop my gear to 33, 31, 32. That way when I pass over the school, they're looking up. Hopefully something's going to come and get them. More times than not, when I recognize that school, I adjust that gear as I go by. and it gives me opportunity to get a strike. If I'm 30 or 20 feet behind the boat, that's typically not going to happen. So just something to think about as far as your setbacks. So as I let that gear out and I set it in there, the line counters are great because it's telling me exactly, obviously, how far back my setbacks are, and if I have multiple rods I'm putting out, the line counters should all be the same or very close to the same. That's easy. Now, if I don't want to break the bank and pay upwards of $100 on some of these reels or more for a line counter, there's things I can do. Some of these reels, this is a 4601 from Abu Garcia. It's a great small rod reel. Works great for lake fisheries, works great for summer on steelhead. I used it for years. I like using it on kokanee rods because it's small and compact. It's thumb controlled. Great little reel for kokanee. You can find a lot of these on your offer-ups and your different sales websites of people sharing stuff, even on eBay, things like that. Look around for these old Abu Garcias, 5601, 5600 series, 5500 series. The 01 series on your Abus is your left-handed reels, which I'm kind of partial to. This 4601, I spool that up with high-vis line. Not that it's going to bother the kokanee, because what I'll do is I'll finish that out with about a 20-foot top shot of clear mono as far as where it's down by my presentation. So I put the high-vis line on, and then I simply take a permanent marker, all right, if I can get it off my downrigger, and I'm going to peel line off of here, and at about depending what I want, 50 feet, I'll put about a 2 or 3 inch stripe of black, okay? At 75 feet, I'll put another marker of black, and at 100 feet, I'll put a marker of black. Now, yeah, at times you may end up cutting some line off the end, but I could always go back and add that back in with my top shot. So I don't really worry about it. Typically, it gets me through an entire season. I have a reel that I know how far back my setback is based on marking my high-vis line simply with a marker. And it affords me the ability to have a decent reel on my kokanee setup without a line counter, but I know exactly where my setbacks are. If I'm fishing on a little hand-controlled downrigger, I know exactly how deep I'm fishing, and those two complement each other, so I kind of dial my game in a little more than just guessing. Just pulling line off a reel for your setback, one, it gets old. Two, it's very... it's all over the place. Okay, there's no consistency in that presentation for the most part. So I can utilize high-vis line and mark it. I can utilize standard mono and put on either small bobber stop knots, work very well, as long as they can pass through the guides. Before I mentioned on this tournament series, this 8-foot, the guides are extremely small. You cannot pass knots through the guides on this particular rod, so I would have to run high-vis line on here and utilize my permanent marker, which works great. Did it for years, okay? So keep in mind that I can truly set myself up for being successful on the water chasing kokanee if I'm just getting into it and don't truly understand what types of gear I should be looking for. Get on eBay, get on OfferUp, get on some of the Facebook options you have to look for sales in various locations. Look for fishing gear, look for kokanee gear. Start looking at some of these older model Abu Garcias and other open face reels that will work well. Don't get the real large ones, obviously, on small kokanee rods. You don't need that. They hold plenty of line, trust me. A couple hundred yards of line on these small spools is not a problem. As far as line weight, I typically go with at least 10-pound mono as your main line. Some guys have started fishing braid and they'll put on like a 30-foot top shot of monofilament. That also works well too, and it has a very small diameter for drag in the water. So that is also something to consider, is utilizing a light braid of, say, 20-pound test and then put on a 10-pound test of monofilament. You're going to be doing just fine in that regard. Not to mention your high-vis braid. It's easy to mark with your permanent marker to tell you exactly where that is. And I wouldn't put a whole bunch of marks on there. I literally would go 50 foot, 75, and 100 foot and call it good. So just a few tips to think about as far as getting setbacks and depth. Options to look at for rods and reels. That's not, again, going to break your bank, and you should be able to put that together in no time and be out kokanee fishing this season. All right, we come back. We're going to jump out for a quick break. We come back. We are going to be in the kitchen with Chef Kelly and Sherry for another fantastic recipe of the week.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Fish Hunt Northwest. We're here in the kitchen with Chef Kelly again this week. And what do you have for us this week? I don't think I'm going to attempt to name this.
What? Everybody can say bo lak lak.
Yeah, not me. It's Vietnamese.
Okay, the translation is called shaking beef. But of course, we're not going to do beef today. We're going to be doing elk steaks.
Yeah, we only do game here.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cow's out of season. But you don't have to be stuck with just elk. You can use moose if you're lucky enough to have some moose, goose, whatever you like.
Okay.
Any kind of red meat, that'd be perfect for this. But more importantly than anything is that you can see that we have very little intermuscular fat here, and this is lean.
So a lean cut, like a backstrap, or?
Yeah, backstrap would be great.
Okay.
So not a lot, connective tissue going through there. So anything that you're going to use traditionally for a steak.
Okay.
Okay. So yeah.
Can you show them like how the marbling is?
Yeah.
Or?
See, there's not much to it. Another thing is we're also looking for a big, thick cut. Okay. If you have really thin steaks, because I looked in the bottom there, we have some are really thin. I'd probably save that for the grill.
Okay. Yeah. Because you don't want to get it too done.
Right.
Yeah.
So yeah. All right, so we're just going to need about 8 ounces of this. Make sure we're not having any silver skin. This one looks pretty good. Okay. We're looking for like little, 1-inch cubes,
All right.
Okay. Pass me my
Sounds
bowl,
good.
please.
Sure. There you go.
Okay.
You're going to marinate to this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Try to find a thicker one here. That's a good one there. Make sure we don't have any silver skin. Perfect.
All right. Looks good.
Yes.
Yep. Nice and lean.
Yes.
So how long would I'm assuming you're going to put marinade on?
Yes.
Okay.
And, if you're going to marinate this, you really want to shoot for 20 minutes. We're not looking for overnight.
Makes it tough?
It makes it tough, and there's a lot of salty ingredients here. Yes, it does actually cure it, and it's going to pull a lot of that blood out, and it's going to make it really tough. So this is an instance where long marination is not better. Okay,
this is going to be needed.
Right. All right, so we're just going to put like a little bit of sugar, so about half a teaspoon of sugar. This is one ingredient that is very important and signature of this dish is oyster sauce. And oyster sauce, we found it at our regular grocery store.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah. So that's, something that's you're not going to have any really problems with. There's about a half a tablespoon.
And you said that's a staple for this dish for you.
Yes,
yeah.
Absolutely. If you actually research this recipe, you'll find that there is so many different variations, and even some don't have oyster sauce in it. And I think that's just abominable. That this is the signature flavor.
Goes against everything you believe in.
Yes, that's right.
Yes.
I mean, just go sit in the corner and go think about what you did. Okay.
Don't want to make the chef mad.
That's right.
Yeah.
Fish sauce is also a signature part to this. You love fish sauce.
Fish sauce.
Fish sauce, yes. Now, I understand a lot of people are like, ooh, fish sauce, and they're kind of freaking them out. And we're going to add a little bit of regular soy. If you didn't like the fish sauce, double up on your soy.
So is it just the name of it that bugs people?
Yes, it's the name of it. Traditionally in all Vietnamese food, there's a lot of dishes that have meat in it that have fish sauce in it, and it's purely for the salt level. It's just a...
Oh, that's just the salt level.
Yes.
Okay.
Some people talk about umami.
Mommy?
Yeah, no, umami. That's a kind of a term nowadays that everybody goes a little too crazy about. But it just means it's kind of like that salty kind of, non-sweet.
Umami.
Yes.
Salty.
Yes. Here's another ingredient that I love a lot. Here, hold on a second here.
Well, what is that?
This is dark soy. So you can see the viscosity here, that it's just super dark, super thick.
And it sticks
way
on
different.
there.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, it sticks to it.
See the difference? So this stuff is really powerful. So this is one that you don't want to go too crazy on, but it gives a lot of great color to it. Has like caramely notes on it. That's like half a teaspoon.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Lots of black pepper.
Lots of black pepper.
Like I see people, they're like, oh yeah, and then we got some pepper, and they do 3 cranks. I'm like, yeah.
No, keep going, keep
going.
I bet you even throw some on at the end too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Okay, a little bit of garlic. I'm gonna do, this is probably 3 cloves of garlic. Yeah, worth? Alrighty.
Okay.
Okay, so we have our pan
Searing hot.
searing hot. Okay, but before we get to that, go ahead and take that.
Okay.
Before we get to that, we are going to make our lime dipping sauce.
Okay.
So traditionally, you would have like a little dipping sauce, and this can vary a lot. And some really, I've seen a lot of them have been a vinegar-based sauce with a little bit of onion and other stuff in it too. I just not a huge fan of it, of the raw.
I'm sure the vinegar kind of takes over the flavor too much.
Yeah, it's really strong. And so I like lime juice. I think lime juice is very healthy, you know, all that good stuff.
So you just basically need one that big.
Yeah, I know. This is the biggest lime ever.
Pick the biggest one. Yeah.
Okay, so now all you're gonna add is just a little bit of salt and pepper.
Yep, you like the pepper.
Yes, and of course, what kind of salt do we use?
Not iodine.
No, not iodine salt, but it's like this kind of old school.
Kosher.
Kosher salt,
There we
exactly.
go.
There we go. Kosher
How
salt.
quickly we forget.
No, don't forget.
Don't forget.
Kosher salt, always.
I love the container.
Right?
Old
I've had
school.
that thing for 20 plus years. Okay, just stir that around a little bit. Okay,
Okay.
so
Ready?
remember, don't over marinate. Okay, our elk is all marinated. We don't have a lot of excess sauce to it. So here we go. All right, get a little bit of vegetable oil here. Our pan is ripping hot. You can
Yes,
see
it
we got
is.
some smoke going.
Yeah. Always love that sound.
Right?
Always. That won't take long.
Nope. Pass that back to you.
All right. There we go. Okay.
All right. You're looking good. Okay, now this is one you don't want to overcrowd this pan.
Also, you need a good sized pan.
Yeah. A good sized pan, and if you
Well,
want to go
depending on how much you're cooking.
right, if you're going, I'm going to cook for my family, I want to, triple this recipe. Do it in batches.
Okay, in batches.
In batches, yes. Okay. Don't try to go too crazy. You can see we're getting really good caramelization right there, but don't go too crazy with stirring it a lot. You see we're getting a little bit of.
That's why you have this job, and I have this one. You can do all those things. Maybe I'll practice sometime.
All right.
So what do we
So
got?
we're there.
All right.
Okay, already.
Perfect. Let
Okay.
it sit there.
Just let it sit there for a second.
Okay.
Okay, so another thing that I like to put on here is pickled red onions.
Okay.
Okay.
So I saw that you marinated those last night.
Yeah, I marinated them and I let them sit minimum overnight because they kind of start to break down a little better. They pick up a little better color. And this is about half a cup of vinegar. I like using red wine vinegar with this because it kind of goes with the color.
Right.
And you can see it turned it pink.
Yeah, and you can
Right.
use those on salads or whatever, so do
Yeah.
extra.
Yeah, do extra. And they last for a week. So I just put like a little bit of sugar, a little bit of salt, and kind of bounce them out, and there you go.
right.
All right. So pass me my plate.
Well, look at that.
So traditionally you would serve this over cucumbers. I put a little bit of tomato, maybe a little extra color there.
Okay.
So you saw how quick this
So you
went,
yeah, absolutely.
I mean-
so quick and easy.
right?
Yeah.
And you see all that beautiful
Cucumbers, you
color
can see the,
that we got from here,
yeah.
okay? And you see there's not a lot of sauce to this, so that's why we have the lime dipping sauce
Smells so incredible.
With it.
Oh.
It kind of wants to go all over the place, but that's fine. It's still running.
Yep, still running. It's a live one.
Right?
Yeah.
And, you know, like your concern was, oh, well, you know, fish sauce. And do you smell fish sauce?
Not at all.
Not at all. It doesn't smell fishy
Not
at all.
all.
We'll put a little bit of
that on there.
Pan juices on there.
Wow.
Okay, we're just gonna clean it up just a little bit.
Yeah.
There you go.
Oh, I can't wait.
Right?
Yeah.
So we are going to add a little bit of our pickled onions that we made earlier. Nice little pop of color.
You said a lot of people will want to add more of that or just use the lime sauce or
Right,
whatever
so you can
want.
have your choice. Maybe you want both,
Yeah.
you know? So, yes. There you go, guys. Shaking beef. We tell you, of course, we're
Quotes.
using, quotes.
Yes.
And, a great Vietnamese dish. And you could absolutely try a new style of food.
Yeah.
Easy stuff. You saw it.
absolutely.
Went minutes.
Well, we're going to grab our fork, Chef, and throw it back to the guys in the studio.
Once again, they're knocking it out of the park in the kitchen.
Yeah.
We should weigh 300 pounds by now. But fortunately, for the most part, it's all healthy. Maybe that clam dredge was a little on the fatty side. There was another, last week's elk chicken fried steak.
Man.
If you haven't gone back to our Facebook page, our YouTube channel, and watched that standalone video of Chef Kelly and Sherry knocking out that elk chicken fried steak, that is amazing.
Stick to your ribs.
Probably not the healthiest
Drool-worthy.
meal, but once in a while you got to splurge and eat stuff like that. It was freaking incredible. So check this one out. It's another fantastic recipe. I can't wait. There's always a little bit left over by the time we get in there. So we get in there, tear it up. What do we got going on in the weather front, Barnum? The weather looks pretty nice.
It looks pretty awesome. We'll hop up here to the monitor and kind of go through it real quick. But lots of stuff going on this weekend. And it looks like things are going to be great for it. Here's kind of the weekend in view. Friday we're going to be 77 degrees, Saturday 75, Sunday 72.
Yeah.
We got no rain in sight for the weekend, which is fantastic. Kind of looking at what's going on. Let's look at some tides. This is for Astoria, Oregon, because of course we have that sturgeon opener going.
Saturday. Yep.
Saturday, you got basically a 7 o'clock low. It's a -1/10. And then also you're going to have that opener on Monday where you're going to have an 821 low and it's a -1 foot. Those are going to be really, again, we talked about this week over week, but those building minuses are when you want to target those sturgeon, especially target those sturgeons on the flats. Fish in that shallow water as it drops. Again, anchor up and say 5 feet of water on the drop. Fish it down until you're worried about being able to get off the flat, and then move back down to like that 5 foot water and just keep working your way down that edge.
All the way up till 2 o'clock.
Right, and then fishing those ledges of the channels, where the channel will be 10, 12 feet deep and the ledge might be 3 or 4 feet, and fishing those ledges at the bottom and on the first part of the income. Looking at the ocean, we got a halibut opener this weekend. Lean cod is absolutely rocking. They're killing the lean cod. Friday, you're going to be 5 to 15, wind waves 2 feet or less, west swell at 4 feet at 15 seconds.
Wow.
Saturday, you're 5 feet at 11 seconds.
Oh.
Sunday, it's saying 6 feet right now, not giving us the time. So, I mean, you got good oceans for this weekend. So, I mean, there's just a plethora of stuff to do this weekend with this beautiful weather.
Absolutely.
Let's talk summer steelhead.
Do we need to? Yeah.
I'm going to click on this We knew. And I'm going to click on this next slide right here, and it's going to put it all in perspective.
Okay. What do you got?
Here, nope, not that one yet.
No.
Here is the Wainuchi near Montesano. And Dwayne, look at these flows. Is that unbelievable for the first week of June?
Well, a couple things that we referred to. You can turn around and look at this here, Barnum. A couple things going on. So, Bill, as we talked before the show, historically, like back when I was running summer guided trips on that river and hardly anybody around, a typical year of snowpack, rainfall, you'd end up starting around the 1st of June with a CFS about 500. You could usually bank on that pretty consistently. You're in that 550, even 450 is great. By the time we get to latter part of August, we're in that 230, under 250. You know, these last few years, we've been down to 125.
Wow.
105. We're starting out at, what's it at today?
Yeah, today it is at, it's right in the, maybe 230. Yeah, 230, right in there.
We're basically starting almost to the point where it would be time to put the drift boat away and just schlepp on down the river hole to hole.
Right.
Because you're just dragging and pushing way too much, it gets difficult. So I guess the point here, the takeaway here is the fact that we are starting out our summer run season. Oh, by the way, no longer the first Saturday in June, which this year would have been June 1st. The Saturday before Memorial Day weekend, in case you missed the notice, because the regs aren't out yet. So a lot of guys are, hey, do you know when summer run opened? Well, yeah, it opened last Saturday.
So it's the 80s again.
We're back to the 80s for the date and time with no fish available.
So as you talked right there, I clicked through the calendar just to see when they're calling for the next chance of rain.
Yeah.
This has June 27th as the next chance of rain.
Yeah.
A month.
Wow.
Yeah.
A month.
Yeah.
So yeah, those river levels are going to get ridiculous.
It's not that you won't have good success summer on steelhead fishing if the fish are around. You just have to change your tactics a little bit. If you are taking a drift boat and got some buddies that are willing to push by the time we get into, say, July and into that front half of August, or, you know, for me, some of the best summer run fishing is always in September.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
A few shots of rain, bigger fish finally come in. Anyway, put that one under a rock. Don't tell anybody. But, you know, the pontoon boats work fantastic.
Please use your pontoon boats.
Use your pontoons or walk, you know, drop off high, walk down the river all day long. The key here is, even if you're using a pontoon or a boat of some means, it's transportation from hole to hole. Park it high
and walk
down and fish through the water before you disturb it. Gin clear, low conditions like you haven't seen in a long time. It's going to be challenging.
Well, those fish are going to be in the upper end of the holes where there's oxygen, slightly cool water, and some cover.
Yes.
If you drop your boat into a hole, you're on top of them, you've already ruined your shot. Getting that big wide tail out up above, pull it over, walk down to the next hole, fish it, and then get back in and ride down.
A lot of guys think that they also go off the bite as soon as you get high sun on the water.
No.
I have caught summer on steelhead 2 o'clock in the afternoon, 90-degree days. It's just a matter of where you're finding them. Tops of holes, shade. Fish your shade lines. Always fish your shade lines. They're what? Not very tall.
They're not tall, no.
So you can find a seam of water on a back cut out cliff, little water seam coming through there under a shade. That water's a little cooler. They're going to hover in there. You can get them stealthy. Your stealthy bobber and jig presentation years ago, ideal for that. Reds and blacks, you know, clear type bobbers from Bomac were fantastic. Uber stealthy, light line. Got to be a little finesse on your fishing, but you can get them. Let's hope we got some fish coming back. The conditions are going to be tough enough as it is, especially starting it right out here at 250. So,
what is the plant? Was it like 60,000?
Probably on average.
Around there. They've been doing that size of plant since day one, way back in the day. So all depends on what kind of ocean conditions we get, what kind of survival. But the Winoochee, what's fun about that river is those fish are worth the wait.
Absolutely.
They are really special creatures, man. They're long and fat across the back, and they're good sized.
You can gauge your summer run fishery here on this coastal areas and whatnot. Either you're a glass half full or glass half empty. If you believe that the steelhead run will mirror or be a replicate of what we experienced for the winter run, you're probably not real excited about summer run. If you forecast our summer run return based off of the coho run that's coming, then you're probably a little more excited about the opportunity for summer steelhead. So it's kind of which camp you believe in.
You could be also thinking about if the glass is half empty. You look at a number of summer runs that are coming back to the Columbia. That's a pretty good canary in the coal mine right there.
True.
We're going to have an epic low run this year, one of the lowest ever. But it's all relevant. It's still steelhead fishing. And I think people that fish the Winoochee know this very well. You're not going to walk up and just to the first hole that you're going to and hook a fish unless they've been stacking in there and you have some intel. You're going to work an awful lot of water that looks really, really good before you find a fish. That's just the way it is there. It takes patience and a lot of presentations and a lot of cover, a lot of water.
Well, it will be, based on water conditions, it will be like that on a number of our coastal streams. We were saying Winoochee only because we pulled up the graph just to show the depth it can be a fickle river to fish for summer on steelhead, and a lot of guys will just give up because you know what, you'll put in multiple days before you finally tie into one.
Right.
Which, hey, it's fishing, and that's kind of what we do. But it could be a tough season for a lot of rivers just based on low clear water and warm water. Right. So
we're probably looking at what do they call that when they shut it down in the early mornings? Hoot owl conditions.
Yeah.
We might have that this year too.
We may very well may.
Yes.
So all right. Other than that, like you mentioned, Barnum, great opportunity. That ocean fishery on Saturday, halibut, lingcod, sea bass. Go get on that because phenomenal condition. Why we're not going, well, we got too much to do. And your sturgeon opportunities. So plenty to do. Get out and do something. Post your pictures on our Facebook page. We want to see them. We want you involved. We want to see that stuff. You know, we haven't really paid attention to a lot of the questions here tonight because we just got so much going on. We got a couple phone calls coming up here next. We are going to be talking with Austin Mosier. Later in the show, as we close out, Mike Ainsworth, both out doing different fisheries. We're going to jump out for a break. When we come back, we're going to get Austin Mosier on the phone.
My neighbor.
Yes. Over Wenatchee area. Now, the interesting thing about what's going on here, Barnum's been fishing the Lower Columbia Estuary fishery for retention sturgeon. Got another opener day opportunity here Saturday. Austin's on the Upper Columbia Wenatchee area fishing sturgeon in a catch and release oversize category. The two fisheries, although similar, same, couldn't be further apart. We're talking 4 to 6 foot of depth. We're talking, we'll let Austin tell you, 29 to 40 foot of depth, speed of current, estuary water, tidal influence up there behind dams. 9-day difference, but you know what? At the end of the day, it's sturgeon for both. Baits and presentations are interesting. We'll get that all going when we come back after this break. Austin Mosier, Austin's Northwest Adventures, right here on FHM.
At Metals Supermarkets, we understand your need for fast access to a wide variety of metals, so we've made it easy. Our network of stores carries a wide variety of metal in all different types, shapes, sizes, and grades, with no required minimum order size. Who could ask for more? Simply tell us your dimensions online, on the phone, or in store, and we'll cut or process the metal to your desired size, often while you wait. We offer same-day service and can deliver the metal right to your door or job site. We even source hard-to-find metals, so no matter what you're looking for, Metal Supermarkets can provide it for you. And we're conveniently located with brick-and-mortar stores in Seattle and Portland, so you can check out our extensive stock for yourself. Superior customer service is guaranteed. Quality service from real people who know metal. We are the small quantity metal experts. To place an order, simply call a store to talk to one of our knowledgeable customer service representatives. Fill out a quote request online, order off of our e-commerce website, or visit one of our many locations and pick out the metal you want. Whether you're a small or large business, government, homeowner, or hobbyist, we make it easy for you to buy the exact metal and just the amount you need. We've been doing this for over 30 years, so we know how to get it done. Metal Supermarkets, the convenience stores for metal. Visit or call a Metal Supermarket store near you today.
Okay, welcome back to FHN. We're trying to get the earbuds in, get the show. Boy, we are just disheveled this evening, and it's Herzog. It's that Bigfoot story's got me all sideways and scared. I'm not going to sleep tonight. Anyway. Okay, we are back, and this is a conversation I've been looking forward to since I talked to Austin last week. He is Austin Mosier, Austin's Northwest Adventures, and we got him on the phone. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good, guys. How are you guys doing?
Hey, we're doing great. So
man.
you've been going after them large, oversized sturgeon on your Upper Columbia, just not too far from home, kind of out in Wenatchee backyard area, if I remember right.
Yeah, I've been fishing down here on the Columbia River near Wenatchee in the Wanapum Pool. It's kind of my home territory where I do a lot of my sturgeon fishing. Unfortunately, this year we did not have a retention season, and so we're just doing some oversized fishing, and we're having a good time at it. We caught a 10-footer just a couple days ago, and I'm out there again tomorrow. So it's been pretty good. I mean, our water conditions are just about right for this kind of fishing. So.
Hi, Austin. This is your neighbor, Bill. How you doing?
How's it going, Bill?
Hey, doing fantastic, man. I got a question. Why are you running all the way down to Wanapum? How about down by Rock Island? Nothing happening there? It's a little shorter drive.
No, that's where I'm fishing, but that's the Wanapum Pool. Mm-hmm. So I am fishing down around Rock Island area. Yep, definitely. 20 minutes from home.
Right. What are you guys seeing for numbers as far as what's your average day been as far as fish being caught?
It's been 2 to 5 fish a day, basically right now. It's been a little bit tougher of a year. Last year we were doing pretty good. We were, in that 5 to 9 a day with the odd day where we only got a couple. Just a lot of it depends on the flow. And last year we had a lot of flow, and it seemed like it really brought those fish into the areas where I'm fishing and got them to bite. And this year it's been a little bit more of a challenge, but I haven't been fishing it as much either since we don't have the retention. I haven't had as many people interested in going down there. So
well, it's fun. Right, it's funny you talk about the flow because we see the same thing on the lower estuary. I've been fishing the last 3 openers down in Astoria targeting retention sturgeon down there since they gave us a season, and we see it all the time with the tides down there. When we have the smaller tides, the fishing gets tougher and tougher and tougher. Right.
And I think a lot of times, even with salmon, I think these dams, when they're dumping water, I think the fish kind of relate that to the tide.
Right.
And for the years, I've really noticed that Chinook fishing gets better, around that slack type of tide, and just, it kind of correlates with the tides in the ocean. I think the dams kind of, correlate that to the fish, and so that's kind of what we're seeing up here with the sturgeon as well.
Right.
So, hey, Austin, let's walk through your typical setup and depths of water that you're anchoring up in and what your approach is. I want to do that in comparison to how Barnum sets up on the lower estuary, depth of water that he's fishing, and kind of his setup, bait that you're using, what you find is working best for you up there in the upper stretches of the Columbia compared to him down the lower. So give us your setup, areas that you're targeting, and what your bait is that you're finding most success with.
Yeah, so when I'm fishing up in the upper Columbia, we're sort of targeting those current steam type of areas, similar to what you would see for, like steelhead, things like that. We're kind of anchoring on the steam, but we're trying to stay in enough current to keep the boat from swaying back and forth. So it's kind of a fine line. And when they change those dam flows, then all of a sudden you're not in the right spot.
Right.
You got to move, or you got to use your bow chocks to move out into it, or put drift socks out, things like that. So I'm anchoring in current stream, anywhere from 30 to 40 feet of water. A lot of times I'll anchor above a hole, pretty typical, sturgeon type stuff. You anchor above the hole, back your boat down to just before the hole, and then work your bait down into the hole. So I got one hole that's like 90 feet deep. I anchor in 30, and I back my boat down to about 45 or 50.
Okay.
And then I walk my baits back into that 95 feet.
Okay.
Up here in the upper Columbia, these fish, they like a variety of baits. And I can tell you, there's a lot of people that think that these fish aren't picky, but I can tell you what, they are picky. And I take a lot of different baits out there in the boat with me. I'll have fresh herring, pickled herring, fresh anchovies, pickled anchovies, fresh squid, pickled squid, salmon bellies, pickled salmon bellies, sand shrimp if I can get them.
It sounds like you just described your lunch.
Right.
I'm curious what the sturgeon are eating, but you sound like you just opened up your cooler and brought out the spread of food for your clients.
Yeah, right.
Right. So see, down in the lower estuary, we're targeting those fish. I have not fished in the 3 openers. I've fished deeper than 6 feet of water. And really the bait selection is down to sand shrimp or anchovies. I mean, some guys have been throwing some herring, but for the most part, everybody's I'm fishing predominantly sand shrimp, but most guys are throwing either sand shrimp or anchovy. And so a little simpler. And I mean, what are you seeing for water temperature up there, and how do you think that's affecting the bite in the upper end of the river?
Well, I'm trying to remember what the water temp is. I think it's like 59 degrees.
Okay.
Like that. So it's fairly cold, I think.
Right.
And our fish are moving into these areas to kind of spawn.
Yep.
And I think that they kind of follow the flow as they start to feel the flow, and they feel the springers kind of smell them kind of coming by. They start to edge up towards the dam. And, so when we start getting into this time of year, those fish are kind of working their way up towards the dam.
Right.
And I'm sure it's like that in a lot of the different areas below.
Right. We've been seeing around 55 to 57 degrees down on the lower river, depending on what the tide's doing. So you're seeing a little warmer water up there.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's pretty cool. Usually when I go down, it's late in the fall and water's hot down there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, up here.
Hey, Austin, I've always been kind of curious. You're fishing on fish that are trapped between dams, so it's not like they can migrate a large area. Other than the length of the reservoir. So you catch those oversized and let them go. How long do you think it is before they bite again, or the opportunity to catch that fish again?
I've it's hard to tell sometimes if they're the same fish or not. But there's quite a few of these fish that we're looking at, and they'll have scars on their lip, hairs where they've torn off, or they're healed with scars. A couple years ago, I caught one called Scarface, and he was just an ornery fish. Now all these fish kind of have their own little personality. Some of them are just kind of docile and stuff, and other ones are real aggressive. You'll get them into shore to take a picture, and they just whoop you trying to get away. And I had this one called Scarface. He had a big old cut on his head. And he kicked my butt one time, knocked me down in the water, and got away. We never got a picture of him.
Huh.
And I caught him 7 days later, and I got pictures of him.
No kidding.
Dwayne, that was a great question, by the way. I've never heard anybody ask anybody the frequency of the aggression and the bite of sturgeon. Well, when they've been released, if they catch them again immediately or they don't bite again. Never thought of that until right now.
We have definitely experienced that with salmon and steelhead.
We've talked about that extensively, but never sturgeon. I've never heard it.
I just was curious because typically you get one of those oversized ones on, depending on how you're outfitted or the gear you're using. That could be a 30-minute fight. Mm-hmm. That fish could be absolutely exhausted when you let it go, and I just wonder how long it kind of takes to get all that lactic acid out of its body and kind of recover and actually get back to its normal feeding pattern. And if I'm a guide running trips like day in and day out, for some of those guys, Austin, that probably run trips on a regular basis, I wonder how frequently in those segregated pool areas, because there's only so many of them in there, how often that encounter is of a same fish a day later, a couple days later. Interesting that you got that one a week later. I mean, they don't stop feeding. Once they recover, it's like an athlete. I mean, they're probably hungry after that workout. So, they're going to start feeding, but it's just a matter of if you can encounter that same fish. I just thought that was kind of curious.
Austin, you said you don't know if they're the same fish or not. Would there something in the future, perhaps maybe a colored tagging program? You could put like a green tag on one and a pink one on another one. You'll know right away if you catch the same fish again. Just a thought.
You know, and I've tried to take pictures of their heads before because they have different markings on their face.
Right.
The way that the colors are on their face, and you can tell sometimes, but I've never put a lot of research into it. You know, I'm pretty busy and stuff like that, but definitely I'll catch some that'll be missing a fin even before. And things like that, and you'll kind of pick up on that. I don't feel like I catch the same fish all the time.
I suggest
like it happens occasionally.
I suggest you start placing an Austin's Northwest Adventure sticker on the back of their head between their eyes, and then you can start keeping track of them. That might get it done for you.
Just like you carve a tree, taking that AM right on the top of its head.
AM was here. In a heart, the whole deal, a little arrow going through it.
I think all this is frowned upon.
Right.
Hey, before we let you go, you got some walleye trips coming up still. How's that doing? You've been pursuing those, and where are you fishing out of?
Yeah, so we've been fishing Moses Lake. It's been pretty good. Today was kind of a struggle for me. We were all over the lake trying to find fish. We got some fish, but it wasn't what I wanted it to be, really. So been doing the Moses Lake thing. Bank Lake's starting to turn on for guys.
Okay.
I'm probably going to maybe go up there a little bit, probably next week. But I'm getting ready to head to Kettle Falls. We've got a keeper sturgeon season up there, a 53 to 63 inch fish.
Oh, wow.
Ooh.
Yeah, and that's going to start on June 15th. And we have a 16 walleye limit up there as well. So I'm going to be running some combo trips up there for walleye and sturgeon.
How long does that keeper sturgeon season go? And is it certain days of the week, or is it open 7 days a week?
Yeah, it's 7 days a week. It opens on the 15th. I got a bunch of other stuff going on in July, so I'm only going to be there for about 2 weeks. But I think that's going to stay open for, I think it's slated for like 3 months.
Okay. So is that a continuation of that season that they had over there last year that they kind of shut down early because they got concerned with catch rates?
Yeah, so this will be the third year of it. The first year it was 38 to 63, and they just smashed them. They got like 10,000 fish in like a couple months or something like that.
Wow.
So they changed slot size 53 to 63, and that really cut down on the harvest rate. They got like 900 last year.
Okay.
So they're looking at, they're going to keep it the same, 53 to 63, and there's a whole bunch of fish last year that were like 50 inch,
right,
48, 49 inch fish, tons of them. And so I talked to a biologist, and he said they grow 6 to 12 inches in a year. So it'd be really good up there. So,
wow.
Yeah.
Outstanding.
I had no idea they grew that fast.
Right.
Thought it was much slower than
until I
that.
get to a certain age, you know.
Yeah. Makes sense.
Right.
All right, well, do you have, for that 2 week window you're fishing sturgeon, you have any openings?
I got 4 days left.
Okay. All right, where can folks reach you at other than your webpage?
My phone number is 509-668-0298. Facebook, I got a website, Austin'sNorthwestAdventures.com.
Yep. Okay, buddy. Always a pleasure. Look forward to getting you over here on the west side at some point and get your butt right here in the studio.
That'd be great.
Yeah, I made the trip.
Guys.
You could do it.
Yeah, exactly. Herzog's here. So.
Hey, we could carpool. I'll ride with you.
That's a great idea. You'll never make it. All right. Have a great evening. Always a pleasure, my friend. Take care.
Okay, guys. Take it easy. Thank you.
Thanks.
Austin's got a dial. That guy fishes all over the place, and great opportunity. And you're definitely going to have a good time when you jump in the boat with that screwball, because he's a hoot.
You may want to give him a call before you leave to head over there. You want to know about the walleye opportunity?
Yeah.
You're going to be right by Kettle Falls.
No kidding.
Right. You know, just a 9-iron away. Maybe you want to call Austin up and ask him, what should I do when I'm in the area if I want some walleye? I think you'll find some pretty good walleye fishing right there.
It's not a bad call. We were going to ask you that question after the show, but it looks like we answered it right here on air. Perfect. All right, we're going to jump out for a break as we're winding down to close out the show. Now we're going to switch it from sturgeon and walleye, going to head up north, start talking about some summer Chinook and steelhead opportunity on the Skykomish Snohomish. Opened when?
Just last Saturday.
The Saturday before Memorial Day weekend. Make a note of that if you missed it. We're going to talk with Mike Ainsworth, First Light Guide Service, buddy of ours. He's doing that fishery. Let's check in and see if it's performing or if we need to wait for some water. Sorry, not going to happen.
Waiting for water.
Yeah. We'll check in with Mike First Light Guide Service. We come back after this commercial break right here on FHN.
What if there was a smarter way to search for your new home? Introducing the Better Homes and Gardens real estate website and mobile app. This revolutionary new search tool puts your needs first. Narrow your search to what matters most to your family, like school data, school districts, and even walk scores. Get easy access to your local affiliated agent, as well as unique and local insights about neighborhoods and properties directly within the app. With synced and saved preferences, you'll always pick up wherever you left off. Get your smarter search started today with Better Homes and Gardens Real Estate.
Hey, welcome back to FHN as we close out the show for this week. I'm surprised we made it out of here alive. This show has been a bit of a challenge, but we're getting through it. We're bringing you the info that we feel is important, and hopefully you're enjoying it. One thing I want to make a mention of, again, is we get several thousand tuning in each week to watch the show. We got almost 2,300 who have liked our Facebook page. So if you're one amongst the 7,000 to 10,000 that are tuning in, do us a little favor. Jump over there to our Facebook page. Give us a like. Check out our YouTube channel. Subscribe so you never miss an episode or anything that we post up as fresh content. You'll be glad you did. We'll be glad you did. It helps us out keep this thing going. So enough for the sales pitch. Before we get out of here, we need to talk about a little bit of summer Chinook opportunity. And also some summer steelhead opportunity up north. And no better person I can think of to talk to other than our good buddy Mike Ainsworth with First Light Guide Service. Mikey, how you doing, buddy?
I'm not doing too bad. How about you guys?
I'm not doing too bad. You sure you haven't started hitting the beer already? Because you sound a little relaxed there this night. Did you get out fishing today?
Not today. Doing the honeydews.
Oh yeah.
Kind of getting set up for the season here.
Right. Okay. Well, I know you always look forward to that Skycomber Snohomish opportunity. I've done that fishery with you a handful of times over the years with moderate success. Sometimes it's really good. Other times it's kind of difficult and a bit of a challenge. We're starting out with pretty low water going into this season. What have you been seeing up there? What have you been hearing, talking to your buddies? How do you think this fishery is going to shape up this year?
Well, this year it's sounding like it kind of got off to a slower start than a lot of people were hoping for. In years past, on the normal opener, which is typically June 1st, we've done really well. This year sounded like just like any other year. There was no shortage of boats on the river.
Weird.
I mean, trucks and trailers were parked all the way up on Lewis Street. Which
no kidding.
Wow. Is unbelievable. But even with that, that could have played a little bit of part of the low numbers that the fish checkers were seeing.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it is earlier than normal, so that could be part of it. Colder water temperatures could be playing a big part of it with all the snow melt that we've been having due to this hot weather.
Yeah.
So a lot of variables, but as is the Kokanee River, day to day is definitely can change things in a big way.
Right. What are you seeing for the river levels, this year compared to, say, the last couple of years?
It definitely, I would say about half of what it normally is running.
Yeah.
So when it opened up, I want to say we had close to only 30% snowpack.
Yeah.
And that was as of the 25th.
Right.
So by now, I haven't even looked at it what it is now, but the only thing we can hope is for some rain to kind of spike that river level a little bit here and there. But every day with this hot weather we're having, you're going to get spikes overnight, which is pretty typical.
Yeah.
Which is always good in a sense because that draws in fish from the bay.
Sure. So with starting out the season a little earlier with lower than normal conditions and not a lot of rain in the forecast, how do you change your approach? Typically when I have fished that with you over the past several years, we're in your sled, we're either side drifting, bobber dogging, fishing a lot of bait. You have opportunity when fishing bait to target both steelhead and those Chinook. Now you're kind of starting out with conditions that would model maybe midway through July or the start of August. We're at the front edge of the fishery. How does that change your approach if it does at all?
The only thing I will do, I will stick with the bait for the most part. The only thing I'll do is kind of downsize the actual size of the bait.
Right.
Smaller clusters. This year, I think I'm going to be playing a little more with the artificials as we get into that low clear water and try to maybe target in on some of those little more finicky fish.
Yeah.
But the great thing about the bait is, you're targeting both steelhead and kings with that. But the nice thing is there's also so many good scents out there nowadays. So whether you're throwing yarnies or bait, the yarnies are great because they hold such a great amount of scent. So I think, I caught them, the kings in the past on yarnies, just soaked to the full brim with whether it be whatever your favorite scent is. So.
What would you recommend in the Atlas Mike's lineup that folks should definitely have in their boat if they're going to entice those Chinook and steelhead on that Kokanee fishery?
The two that I always have in my boat are always definitely the shrimp and the krill and anise.
Yeah.
Those are kind of my two go-tos pretty much any day of the week.
I'm a big fan, Mike, of the squid. I think they really key on that stuff. I've done so well with steelhead using artificials and soaking sponges and rags and things like that with squid in the past. I got a lot of confidence in that, and I don't hear too many people using the squid. What do you think?
I've never used the artificial squid, to be truthful, but I have used natural squid that I've dyed before for steelhead and coho in the fall, and I've had really good success with it. Just one of those things. I think people kind of get stuck in their ways. I will throw one out there for you that, I don't think a lot of people necessarily use, but I know a few guys doing it. But that is, especially in the summer months, is the crayfish.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. Crawdad is overlooked for a lot of fisheries.
Yes, it is.
For a lot of guys, absolutely. One thing about that squid, that is literally one bait that you can put a strip of tentacle or a strip of meat on there and fish it all day.
Right.
It will literally last you all day. It's like if you have 4 clients, 4 pieces of squid, you're good to go run it all day.
Yeah, just a small couple, 3 or 4 little mini tentacles on there, right in the egg loop.
Yep.
Ta-da.
Done.
You're fishing bait all day long, and you can set the hook as hard as you want. Yeah, that's not coming off.
You can't lose it.
No.
It won't come off.
Right.
It is the toughest stuff going. So
yeah, I like adding it right to the end of the hook because it actually adds quite a bit of action when it's rolling around down there. So
you still got some openings to have folks get a hold of you and book some trips up there. I mean, that's a beautiful river to spend the day on. It's going to be sunny. The weather's going to be fantastic. Hopefully we start encountering some fish on those tides, start pushing fish in. So if folks want to get a hold of you, come fishing. How do we do it?
Yeah, I do have a few dates here and there, and I also do some afternoons from time to time, which is kind of nice because the mornings can be pretty crowded, but you poke around out there in the afternoon and the crowds disperse, and we've actually had some really good success out there in that time of the day.
All right. Get you on to First Light Guide Service on your website or your Facebook.
You got it.
Okay. You got a phone number?
206-817-0394 is the best number to reach me at. Or
Okay.
like I said, via Facebook on firstlightguideservice.com.
Perfect.
Sweet. Nice.
All right, buddy. Always a pleasure to talk to you. Appreciate a little insight on those northern fisheries. If I find time, as we always advocate for, I may have to just give you a call and see what you got going on. If we get down to drift boat levels of water, I'll even row you down the river for a day just so you can enjoy some fishing.
Oh, now we're talking.
Now we're talking. All right. Have a great evening, Mike. Thanks for taking the time.
All right, guys. Have a good night.
Yep.
Thank you,
Talk to you
sir.
soon. Good guy. Definitely knows those upper northern fisheries.
Right.
Good place to go spend some time. Beautiful country up there. You know, we're down here kind of tucked down at this end, and to get up there is a bit of a trek, but get up there and fish for a day or two like I've done in the past with him. Always enjoyable, and you do encounter some fish from time to time.
It's not that far, man.
Yeah, you
Come
know,
on.
traffic and...
Yeah.
Traffic. What exactly is that?
Well, you folks on the east side, in the undeveloped portion of our nation, what you do is you drive through the wheat field until you hit the river, okay? And then you're good to go. So
I hope that, for his sake, like Mike's sake, and all the guides around, that I hope some steelhead come back this summer. I've heard so much doom and gloom. I just once want the prognosticators to be wrong.
Right.
Just one time, just go, oh, we thought there was going to be 75,000. Look at there, 200,000 came back.
Wouldn't that be something? Well,
Just
we can
one
always
time.
hope. We'll see how it materializes as we get through the next couple months with no rain. The other thing that kind of concerns me with the way the weather is shaping up, not that we haven't talked about it quite extensively thus far. I mean, the whole other side of my life, obviously, the fire concern for this summer rolling into it, both east and west side. But, you know, as we enter into our fall fisheries, and we have little to no water in these rivers, we may see some immediate emergency type regulation adjustments. Don't be too caught off guard if we see some emergency closures on certain rivers, because those fish will definitely want to leave the salt and get into that fresh water. When they keg up in the bottom estuary waters and kind of go back and forth waiting for that push, it can just be an absolute slaughter fest if guys find where those fish are and just beat on them day in and day out. The problem with that is those fish that you encounter and release and have, you know, hoot and holler and high five and play that game, you jeopardize their ability or willingness to eventually get upriver and even spawn. So it's hard on them to survive warm, low, clear water when they're beat on. We're projecting that out, obviously, as we get into September, October with no rain, but we'll have to wait and see how that materializes with 1 million plus coho coming back, depending who you talk to. Coho all over the place. It's going to be coho bedlam, of course, and then, you know, what's the weather going to do that's either going to allow us to go after these fish or not? It'll be interesting how this shapes up.
You talk to our California friends. and ask them about CFS closures.
Yeah.
Their rivers down there's no salmon fishing, no steelhead fishing allowed until rivers get to a certain CFS to make sure there's none of this kegging up.
Sure.
There's no, the opportunities for snaggers is just goes out the window.
Right.
So, yeah, you might see that coming up here. Our California friends have been doing it for 30, 40 years.
Well, they've been in a drought for 40 years.
Well, sure, but we may be getting their regulations up here.
The other thing we need to advocate for is that our co-managers hold back. If we find ourselves in this predicament, they hold back on their lower river gillnet fisheries instead of just sweeping through a pool of where all these fish are kegged up, Chinook and coho, on some of those coastal streams that they have access to early season, and just, if we can take the lion's share of that early run, could be detrimental for returning years later on. So it's checks and balances. We'll have to see how this summer materializes and what we can project for our fall fisheries, but we're a long way from that. Prior to that, we got all kinds of stuff to get our hooks into. We're going to go chase some triploids this next week here. Getting out of town for a few days to go pursue that. Look for that footage coming up in the near short future, and we may even go find ourselves some walleye, Barnum.
Yeah. Looking forward to that.
We may have to see what Sir William is doing on the east side while we're over there. May be able to draw his attention up towards our way.
Not that far.
No.
Not really. No, it isn't.
I think he knows where it's at.
I do. I was just over in the area where you're going a few days ago.
Yeah.
It was very good.
Oh, yeah.
You guys are going to have a good time.
Yes, we are. Always a pleasure, my friend. Thanks for jumping in studio again. You go wandering around the upper woods here at my place. I might just force you to come in and sit down. So
the pleasure's all mine. So.
Yeah, always good to see you. That's going to do it for this week once again on Fish Hunt Northwest. We thank you for joining us. Join us again next week. It's probably going to be even more of a crap show than this week because we're on the road up until Wednesday night. We got to try to put a show together next week without any internet access. We're going off grid. We're going to be all about fishing finally and just doing what we can. So I just may rely on David to take the reins here this week, put the show together. And
sounds good.
We show up Thursday morning. David, what do you got for us? that may be we're talking about kids sports and girls gymnastics, whatever. So, all right, we're gonna get out of here for the week. Follow us on Facebook. If we find a sliver of connectivity, we'll try to pop some information up for you guys to wrap your head around. Until then, get out, go fishing. Have fun, post your pictures up, stay in contact. Have a good week.